on the Supreme Court case. There's also how Wafula Chebukati and the two commissioners initiated secret biddings. But I was listening to him. Whatever Tuju said is like, well, I need to really jog the memory of the IEBC officials. He said it was not at 3 a.m. It was at 4 a.m. And I actually met you once I heard that indeed there were complaints of voter manipulation on the register. I mean, turns and twists in this particular case will be, for us, all eyes will be in the Supreme Court, by the way. And it will be a very interesting read on the responses and the evidence that's going to be given as pertains some of these allegations that we've seen in this particular petitions. Another headline that you should be waking up to tomorrow, not today, by the way, on the Standard is how President Uhuru Kenyatta's deafening silence as election petition starts at the Supreme Court. Now, this is why majority of people are concerned about Uhuru Kenyatta's silence. You see, Anki, the elected governors have already been appointed to office. In fact, they've been sworn into office, meaning that county governments, as far as we are concerned, are already active. They have
they're operational.
Bosses, they're operational. They have the MCAs. Now, business is going to go on as usual. But here's the thing. If you were elected as a member of parliament, you are still, according to law, a member of parliament elect.
Yes.
That's why majority of members of parliament are saying, why is President Uhuru Kenyatta quite this silent? He should officially open the 13th house.
Yes.
By the way, before he officially opens it, you are still member of parliament elect. Now remember, the law says 30 days after you've been elected. It's still is operating within law, but then majority of people are saying, "Bwana ongea kitu bwana."
Yeah, and I think one of the things he's trying to do is to actually let the courts do their job.
Yeah.
Remember when we started the campaign period and when, of course, he picked his successor, there's a lot of politics going around his position, some saying he was compromised, some saying they didn't want to hear him, he was, stirring a lot, in all this going on. And I don't know, but I would think perhaps he's keeping his cool to actually let the courts give direction in the next maybe week, because we'll be looking at this 14 days. So I think it is in his own wisdom, and perhaps he will be speaking soon. But you do know that we've been expecting him to convene this 13th parliament since last week. A lot of people and a lot of political analysts were just saying we're expecting then President Uhuru Kenyatta to call forth the 13th parliament, and people are still anticipating the same. But like you said, perhaps there's a bit of anxiety as much as his silence is concerned, being that he is the outgoing president, and that he had a successor who is now, of course, a preferred successor, who is now, of course, challenging the declarations by the IEBC, choosing then his deputy and now President-elect Ruto as the 5th president-elect. So it's quite an interesting moment also for President Uhuru Kenyatta, but we're yet to hear from him. I believe he will speak. I believe he will speak.
Yeah? What do you think he's going to say?
He's a smart guy. He will speak.
What do you think he's going to say?
I don't know if I can ever predict, Uhuru Kenyatta to the point where he said, "Mnataka nifanye nini." So I don't think he's one of those heads of state you'd predict his speech. But let's wait and see. But if I still check on the Daily Nation, politics taking center stage, and like I mentioned earlier on, some of the headlines, including this one, reads, "Bitter exchanges now in Azimio over Junet Joho role in Raila election loss." So it's quite of, some within, aspects now in the coalition. And according to this, it says anxiety over defections is sweeping across President-elect William Ruto's and Azimio la Umoja Kenya, One Kenya coalition party leader Raila Odinga camps. So, of course, you're seeing Dr. Ruto, whose victory is now in the hands of Supreme Court judges, has extended the political duel beyond the polls with incessant, raids on the former Prime Minister camp. Really, it's just really political on the Daily Nation in the first few pages today.
That's exactly what it is, isn't it? Now you do know you want to learn and read more, by the way, on the petitions. And I'm urging you, by the way, in your free time, go get copies of these petitions that have been filed for the 9th August general election. You're going to love it. The best storybook you're ever going to read.
Storybook?
Yes. It's going to be a thriller. Yeah? I'm telling you, that's how it is. Anyway, we take a little break. Once we come back, we'll be telling you exactly what it is you're talking about as Kenyans Online, where we'll be crossing over to what is trending this Monday.
Welcome back. This is now the heart of the conversations this morning. If you are not up to date on what's happening on social media, we are here to actually give you that information precisely, accurately. So join us real quick at Lookup TV, and of course let us know then what your thoughts are, and if there's anything we have missed out on, we'll be sure to grasp some of those in our comment section, also live right now on Facebook at Lookup TV. But of course our major social media platform this morning will be Twitter. For a reason, Kenyans on Twitter seem to be the most informed.
Yeah,
no, that's sarcastic. That's sarcastic. But of course, I am seeing Simba for the reasons we know best. Tuju is trending.
Oh yeah,
Tuju is trending.
Oh yeah, man, but I'll tell you why, Anki. When you look at that, by the way, it's not just Tuju, because if you look at that particular trend, you will see Tuju and former AG. If you do remember, if this name rings a bell, Amos Wako. So allegedly, and I'm saying this,
allegedly,
that is what Wafula Chebukati was saying, that him and Amos Wako, former AG, visited Wafula Chebukati and told him, you need to declare this result in favor of Raila Amolo Odinga, because if indeed the other candidate has won, that is Ruto, then you need to call for a rerun, just for the sake of the safety of this country. That is according to Wafula Chebukati. And that's why I told you, Anki, when you get your time, just go read those petitions. Whoa.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, 3 lines. Guess what? Now, Tuju comes back and says, Buana, I didn't say that. You guys are lying. What I said is that I came to see you, and specifically, it was not at 3 a.m. as you're claiming. It was at 4 a.m.
Yes.
when I heard that there was some Form 34 C's and A's were actually getting pushed into your portal that you are going to use to announce this result. That's why I met you. So it is I said, you said now.
Yeah, and usually we say there are three sides of the story. There's Chebukati's side of the story, Tuju's side of the story, and the truth. Then we get to actually find out the truth at the Supreme Court with those very... Have you seen those teams of, you know, the Azimio and Ruto's team? I think the legal teams also are very equipped for this one. So we get to hear then the wisdom that lies within the judges and the seventh bench. And in that same light, let's take a look at some exact tweets as they appear on social media. So I'm going to put Mutahi Ngunyi's tweet, of course, that reads, "I have only one prayer this blessed Sunday." That was yesterday. Of course, it's been trending yesterday into today, saying justice for the Luo nation, interesting, and saying, and justice for Babaman. He says, "You cannot run against a fellowship of thugs," I'm reading it as it is, "and expect them not to steal. Stories about NSAC, Amoswako, Tuju are all a diversion from the manipulated Form 34As. Really, quite a strong opinionated tweet there, but pretty much people go on Twitter and say what they feel as it is. So that's pretty much what Mutahi Ngunyi has tweeted in light with the Tuju's, you know, trends this morning.
And we do also have, just Kenya's really just going up and about, talking about how this is now a movie with whatever Tuju and Amos Wako were allegedly doing, But
of course, let's just, you know, you want to know more why Tuju is trending, you can go out there on social media, especially on Twitter, and flow with that. But as you mentioned, Simba, the Form 34C is trending, you know, together with Tuju's name, you know, Amos, and for a reason. You know, Kenyans might have forgotten why the 34C is very important.
Yeah, that's the one that Wafula Chebukati used to announce the presidential results.
Exactly.
You see, we have Form 34A, Form 34B, and Form 34C. So under presidential elections, you will start with A at the polling station, B at the constituency level, C, the final one then, that is at the National Tallying Center that Wafula Chebukati then uses to announce the results. But Wafula Chebukati was quite clear. He said, "I'm just going to rely on Form 34A. And we are done and dusted." So whatever was reflected on A should be in B and C. It should tally. Now, they're saying then that Form 34Cs that were used to declare the presidential results, according to one side, and that is the Azimio coalition, was not in correspondence, or was not in agreement with Form 34A. Some Form 34S.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the four commissioners who distanced themselves, talking about the electoral process was okay, we've been peaceful, we've done the most transparent ever seen in this country. However, towards the end of this, there was opaqueness that we then declare ourselves not part of. And this is where the opaqueness comes in. Exactly, how did you get to the verification and declaration? The Constitution says the IEBC. All right, and people have been saying, who is IEBC if the commissioners are not involved? We don't really know yet the truth. Like I said, there's always three sides of these things. The one side, second side, and immediately in there is the truth. We get to find out. But of course, a lot of them just saying, you know, Chebukati, you know, you remember Raila's address when he said, Chebukati is given power to oversee the elections, but not to be a dictator. So quite interesting things happening right now. And we're just looking at the Supreme Court to see the development as far as the Constitution is concerned on the way forward for this country, even as we await President Uhuru Kenyatta, the outgoing president, to speak. Yes, they're saying deafening silence. Simba.
That's it.
If we will take a short breather, come back with the latest news now, making headlines from the newsroom. Don't go too far away. We'll be right back shortly.
You're still watching The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. Let's cross into the newsroom or the news desk this morning and see some of the stories that are taking center stage. Now, Azimio Executive Director Rafaela Tuju has challenged the IEBC chair, Wafula Chebukati, to publicly disclose information that they discussed as a secret location in a Karen. Responding to an affidavit filed by IEBC chair Wafula Chebukati, claiming that he asked that the results be moderated in favor of Odinga. Tuju challenged the IEBC commissioners, Professor Abdi Guliye and Boya Molu, to publicly explain why they visited his home at the height of the election.
After IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati implicated senior government officials, including Rafael Tuju, in his affidavit, the Azimio La Umoja executive director has come out guns blazing, asking Chebukati to come out clean on what really transpired.
I've not seen any substance. I think the only substance is to divert attention by putting in the name of Rafael Tuju and have some, something which is sensational.
Tuju confirmed that he was at the Bomas of Kenya at 4 a.m. in the morning. However, he was seeking audience with Chebukati, following concerns that some Form 34As had been replaced with different ones.
The issue I'd brought up with him was that I'd received intelligence from one of the IBC officials who complained that some Form 34A were being brought down and they were being replaced by other Form 34A. He was not able to know exactly the location from which this was happening, but he brought it to me once, the first time, and I reported this to the DCI, who dispatched officers to have an interview with this person. This gentleman was so terrified, and he actually mentioned the case that he had been threatened by Mr. Majan when he brought it up with him, that he should not play with him, he'll know who Mr. Majan is.
The former Jubilee Party Secretary General has asked Chebukati to come out clean on what offers he allegedly made to him in front of 10 other people, terming those claims as outright lies.
He has made claims of what I said when 10 of us were in that room. All the commissioners were in that room, and Mr. Amos Wako was in that room, and another lawyer, I don't know his name, Bonduo, whoever he is. So there are 10 of us in that room. For him to claim that I made some offers to him in front of those 10 is a tara diddle. Is a tara diddle. Petty lie.
While taking a swipe at Chebukati, Tuju has urged IEBC Commissioners Guliye and Moli to come out clean and describe the nature of the meeting they had at his house and why Guliye sent him emissaries, saying that he will provide CCTV footages to help in investigation.
I want Mr. Guliye, or Professor Guliye, and Mr. Molu to explain what they came to do in my house. What was that discussion about? And the drift of that discussion was more of auctioneers rather than commissioners. I want them to say they never came to my house. I will make the CCTV cameras available at my house so that those can be investigated by the DCI, whether I'm saying the truth or not, because to my house they came.
Tuju has also asked Chebukati to explain the nature of the meeting he had with UDA Secretary General Veronica Maina, and former Turkana Governor Josephat Nanok immediately left his office, admitting that he also had a secret meeting in Karen with Chebukati prior to the elections.
I want Mr. Chebukati to explain to me and to explain to Kenyans when he came to a secret location to meet with me, and what was that discussion about.
Ian Keitani, Lookup TV.
Azimio won Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga on a Sunday pledged that he will go by the Supreme Court outcome, provided the ruling is based on the truth. Speaking during a church service at Africa Inland Church in Kibra, Odinga said the blame game between the IEBC commissioners is confusing Kenyans. Chandra Kareria with the details.
The Azimio One Kenya flag bearer Raila Odinga, flagged by other Azimio politicians on Sunday, attended a church service at Africa Inland Church in Kibera, Nairobi County. Odinga, who has since filed a presidential petition before the Supreme Court, told the congregants that he is inclined to know the truth of what transpired during the presidential tallying, adding that he has a damning evidence that he is intending to use during the full-blown hearing to invalidate Ruto's win.
Tunaomba mahakama ifanye haki, ili haki ijulikane. Mimi Raila Odinga siogopi. Kama nilishinda nitasema nimeshindwa. Kama nilishinda nitasema nimeshindwa. Na nitarudi nyumbani. Lakini ukweli uko wapi? Mimi nina hakika sijashindwa kwa sababu jamaa.
We have been collecting evidence. And I want to thank you, the whole of people in this republic. We have received a lot of support from wananchi.
While pointing out at the division between the IEBC commissioners, accusing them of not speaking the same voice, Odinga stated that he will accept the decision of the Apex Court.
Kama mwenyekiti wa tume ya uchaguzi anaweza kusema ati alikuwa anataka kuhongwa. Nani alikuwa anataka kuhonga yeye? Na ni pesa ngapi? Na mbona haya kusema ati alikuwa anataka kuhongwa? Sasa Wakenya mnaweza kujiuliza, watatu wale ni wanasema ukweli au wanne wale wanasema ukweli? Ukweli iko wapi? Where is the truth between the two groups of the commissioners? Somewhere there's a truth. What I'm asking for as Raila Amolo Odinga is to be told the truth.
The Azimio leaders maintain that they won the presidency while asking the Supreme Court to enthrone Odinga.
Wangapi wanaamini ya kwamba baba ndio rais wa 5 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya?
The Azimio politicians later held a public rally at Kamkunji grounds in Kibra, where they asked their supporters to remain calm and wait for the Supreme Court judgment.
Sisi Raila akisema left ni left, hakuna kupiga hiyo. Akisema right, akisema backward, akisema forward, sisi tunatii kiongozi wetu. Vile ametuambia tugoje Supreme Court, tutangoja hapo.
Shadra Kareria, Lookup TV.
Residents of Kakamega have been assured of enough security as they prepare to go to the ballot today, Monday, to elect their governor. The head of police in the Western region, Paris Kimani, says enough officers have been deployed, urging the voters to turn out in large numbers and cast their votes without fear. Kimani also sounded a warning to those looking or intending to cause chaos during the process, saying that will be dealt with accordingly.
And we have enhanced security. We have improved in our security by adding more officers. All the polling stations have enough officers. We have gotten officers from our neighbor region. We have gotten special teams. I have also gotten officers from my other counties. So we have enough, and I want to say enough security.
We also told them that they inform their agents to ensure that after counting of the ballots, they take photo of the Form 37As that will be taken to the constituency tallying centers and later to the county tallying centers. We have also increased security, so there's nothing to fear about. We have enough security. We have been assured of that. So each and every polling station will have 2 police officers, and the tallying centers will have 20 police officers, and there are enough police officers who are doing the patrol, including the GSU. So these people are not there to intimidate anybody, they are just there to ensure everything is going right.
Now, the Parliament by-election at Rongai constituency in Nakuru has kicked off earlier this morning. Now, the voters were at the polling stations as early as 5 a.m. The security has also been maintained in the region where the number of voters turning out is expected to increase. Let's look at those pictures right now.
Kwa majina ni Jane Kwamboka. Mimi ni navutia hapa Kiamuni High. Nilifika hapa 6. Nimefika kwa stream yangu, bado mashini bado iko chini kidogo, bado haijawaka.
Okay, majina nickname ni Blackie. Na install Rongai residents. Naomba tutoke kwa wingi today if it's possible. We have an election to choose, we have a leader to choose. Tunaomba nyinyi wote mtokee na amani, tupige kura na amani. Kura ni siri yako na usidanganywe. Thank you. Nilifika 6:10 by 5:40 to 6:10 I was available. Si hoja sana. It's very early in the morning when you're doing MP's election. Ni mtu mmoja, so people are skeptical about waking up mapema na kukuja mchana, so we expect through the day things will turn around.
Now, the Kakamega by-election has also kicked off early this morning. Now, remember, this was also cancelled after there was a mix-up in the ballot papers by the IEBC. Let's also cross over and see exactly how part of the polling stations are already kicking off the exercise.
Nimekuja kwa laini, nimekaa ati mashini imeharibika. Hatuwezi kujua hii mashini inaharibika kwa njia gani. Kama hawataki kuweka mashini, waweke manual. Sasa mashini wabadilishe mashini, walete ingine. Hatutaki maneno ya kucheza hapa.
Na nimefika hapa mida ya saa 11:30. Nimekaa hapa, nimeamka mapema, nimeacha wife kwa blanketi. Saizi sasa hata sijui nikirudi huko itakuwa namna gani, kwa sababu ilifaa nipige kura haraka ili niweze kurudi. Sasa mimi nashangaa tukiendelea kukaa hivi tutakaa hivi hadi lini? So mtufanyie hivi haraka, mazee tupige kura, tupitishe msee wetu, sisi tufanye magani tuende kwetu.
Kura Emmanuel na kura nyingi ziliibwa. Hatutaki kura Emmanuel, mtuletee mashini tupige kura tukitumia vitambulisho vyetu tafadhali.
imekwama. Sasa gani imekwama? Kuhamisha.
The 2007-2008 post-election violence victims in the country have raised concerns over the prolonged electioneering period, claiming it is creating tension among Kenyans. Now, through the Kenya Internally Displaced Persons Organization, the victims have noted that the current presidential petition at the Supreme Court had kept the entire nation at a standstill, while calling for a truce between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the now president-elect William Ruto. The group's patron, Peter Tena, has noted that the ones who should move to the nation forward through a smooth transition.
Our president, our dear president, come out clear and help us as a nation, as a people, so that we cannot go to another delay towards 2027 general election. We need a proper way forward, which was given to us by our first founder father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Whatever was progressed from him to President Moi and also Kibaki. Right now, we have a good chance that God has elevated to us. We had a good government from Kibaki. Now, we have another one with the President-elect William Ruto. We know our police have suffered during this election tirelessly to provide us with the security. But how, for how long shall we go this process? Let us be helped by our President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and the President-elect William Samoei Ruto now.
Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha issued a directive that students in boarding schools are to remain in school during the Monday mini polls. Now, today's elections are to take place in Mombasa and Kakamega counties, Pokot South, Kitui Central, Rongai and Kacheliba constituencies. Now, we sought parents' opinions of the security of students in boarding schools. Let's take a look at that on our daily segment of Your Opinion Matters.
Students in boarding schools are to remain in school during elections in Mombasa County, Kakamega County, and various constituencies. Here are some of the views from parents regarding the directive.
Ile wanarudi nyuma kimasomo, na vile nimeona Kenya watu wamekuwa watulifu wakati tumefanya hii election ya president. Kwa hii ya governor wasirudi nyumbani, waendelee na masomo. Yes.
Kwa maoni yangu naona kama mimi mzazi si sawa, kwa sababu watoto muda mrefu wamekaa nyumbani sana kutoka wakati wa COVID mpaka sasa hii wakati wa election.
Onelea kwa hii wakati ya election kesho wakipiga kura, watoto wenye wako hiyo places hiyo wafunge shule kwa sababu hapo ni kwa polling station, wakuje nyumbani kwa sababu hatujui riskiness yenye inaweza tokezea huko. Na kwa wenye hawapigi kura huko waendelee na masomo yao. Kama Kakamega sasa huko watoto wafunge tu shule according to security yao.
Mimi kama msasi kwa majina ni Kidisha Simulako kutoka Western Kakamega Eregi. Maoni yenye iko ni moja. Election ni one day. Hiyo siku moja watoto wakae nyumbani, the following day warudi shule. Election bila itafanyika itaenda until 5 years. We can't forward ama backward mambo ambayo itaumiza. Masomo itaendelea, election one day. Kwangu
si vizuri
kwa sababu wasi janganya politics na masomo. Najua roba sasa chaos is erupt. Na wale kukua the worst hit ni students. Some of them saingine hawana pass fare ya kurudi kwao, sasa ile mambo imeharibika. Na wale politicians after your fault. Wakisa ingia kwa jeo ni hivyo.
Sasa kama hawa boarding waendelee kubaki kwa sababu sasa unakuta kama wazazi mambo kama school fees, mambo kama fare, especially kama wale wako Nairobi wanasomea pande ya nyumbani, hiyo mambo ya fare unaona kama sisi wazazi hatukuwa tumejipanga. Ni kitu sasa hatukuwa tumejipanga.
Kwangu mimi naona kuna shida kwa sababu kama tulifanya ya president na hatukuwa na shida yote, hatukuwa na vita, hatukuwa na tatizo lolote kwa wananchi wa Kenya, tulikuwa sawa. Kwa hivyo naona security itakuwa bado ni nzuri tu. Tuna imani kuwa itakuwa sawa.
Some parents are worried about the safety of their children, while others support the directive issued by the Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha. Mudeundalana, Lookup TV.
Now, Egypt is this year's destination for the COP 27.5, as 237 kilometers away in Kenya. Now, a group of youth who are champions for matters of environment have put it top of their agenda to march and cycle to Egypt to attend the event. Now, the agenda, to send a message on carbon neutrality. Now, that story then would mark the end of Morning Drift and News Desk headlines. I'll see you later for Look at Business. Ankidori Zombatu will come and take over what we're seeing in the political field currently in the country. Good morning.
Miles away, the Egyptian authorities are working around the clock to host on behalf of the African continent the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change 2022, which is COP27. In Sharm el-Sheikh on November 6 to 18th, 2022. And back here at home, a group of young environmentalists are readying themselves for the event with one agenda: to spread the message on environment conservation. Representing Climate for the Future, the group that consists of close to 50 members across the country seeks to attend the COP27 in Egypt via foot and cycling in what they term as cycling and marching for the planet.
Carbon neutrality. We want Africa, all global leaders, the essence of attaining the -1.5 so that we can have a good earth for us. Emissions are killing.
The walk to COP27 will be starting on 21st of September, and the kickoff shall be at Karura Forest.
The journey to COP27 will take them 52 days to cover the 5,237 kilometers as they traverse the different terrains of 4 countries, Uganda, South Sudan and Sudan, a journey they say they are mentally and physically ready to undertake.
It is not an easy task because we will go through 4 countries and it needs a lot of preparation. For me, I have been doing some exercise, some racing, so that I can make sure I am fit to face and embrace the challenge.
Going to Egypt is important because I will be in a position to diversify my scope when it comes to environment-related issues.
Motorcycling is a mental thing. It's not necessarily lazima you be into practice. So when you are focused about something, you will really achieve it.
With the youngest of them being 21 years of age and passionate about the environment, they say their presence there will give them an opportunity to share ideas on how the youth can play a role in the conservation of the planet. Lamenting that little has been done on the same because the leaders of tomorrow are not on the table.
We are like growing to become the future leaders. We are today leaders, but we are like nurturing the coming generations. So we should like be involved.
According to my feeling and my understanding is that more young people are involved in implementing policies that they were not involved in policy making. So I just feel that since COP27 and Conference of Parties is one of the supreme law-making body for the international community, I feel that we need more young people to be represented there.
However, as much as they are convinced that their journey is set, they face a challenge still.
Yes, we are planning to cycle, but now in the logistics bit, you know, bicycles that we are having like right now, they can't withstand the terrain.
Going through the 4 countries from Nairobi, Kenya to Egypt, it is not an easy journey. So we need well-wishers, we need people to come across and support us, most likely financially, because there is a lot of logistics that should be put in place for us to walk from Kenya to Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt.
This year's international gathering aims to establish legally binding commitments for developed countries to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Although Egypt is only hosting the UN activity of the COP27, the country put forward an agenda for unofficial themes to be tackled at the conference over 10 days, including the youth's role. The theme will seek to engage youth in issues of highest priority, with high-level champions of climate action to present their success stories and efforts in a bid of combating climate change. Now, they have one agenda: to send a message as they march and cycle all the way to Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, to attend the COP27. At the end of it all, they hope that the message will be clear that this planet needs to be conserved. Brian Amuai, Lookup TV, Nairobi.
Welcome back. We're still with our Anki Dorizombat. Hi. Good morning, Anki.
Simba, it's good to see you again. You know, what's happening today is that voting has today morning, that is Monday morning, opened in 8 electoral areas, including the Mombasa and Kakamega governor races in key elections that are acid tests, they say, for President-elect William Ruto and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga. And I know, Simba, you've been following closely. We started off this show by setting that pace that the elections were postponed on August 9th, the date of the general election, after what the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, said was ballot papers mix-up and were again pushed forward on the August 23rd after the commission cited intimidation and harassment of its staff. Simba.
That's the way it is, isn't it? If you look at what was going on in Kakamega and Mombasa counties as well, there looked to be a mix-up of those ballot papers. Something happened to Nakuru County, but to be specific, Rongai constituency again, where there was a mix-up and some members of parliament were also missing their names from that. Let me just remind you on exactly what happened to Nakuru County, especially Rongai constituency, where which led to the cancellation of that poll. That's where we saw some protest of youth who took to the street just to protest the name of their candidate.
Member of Parliament?
Missing from the ballot papers, and that was Member of Parliament Raymond Moi. Those are his fellow supporters who took to the streets then to condemn Wafula Chebukati as to why he did that, especially at Masingiri Primary Police polling station. That's where we saw a bit of unrest. That is on the 9th August election, when the youth came out to sort of protest why the name of that member of parliament was then missing from the ballot papers. Now, if we can, by the way, some of those polling stations have opened, and we showed you those pictures this morning. Again, Anki, even as we then see those pictures again side by side, you said low voter turnout. A big conversation really this morning, even as we see those pictures.
And of course, Simba, now as we're speaking, really the polls are being held, and of course in Mombasa and Kakamega governor elections, as well as member of parliament races in Kacheliba, West Pokot County, Pokot South, that is of course Rongai, Nakuru County, and Kitui Rural in Kitui County. Also going to the polls today are voters in Nyaki West, I don't know if you mentioned that, in the North Imenti constituency, Meru County, and Kwanjenga, that is Embakasi South. You know, Simba, what you ought to do in Nairobi County to elect the members of the county assembly. It's quite eventful in those respective 8, designated areas as far as IEBC is concerned. And while for the IEBC, the test will be on their systems and logistics, we're looking at, for the politicians, Ruto and Mr. Odinga, the polls will be a make or break moment to show up their numbers in the National Assembly, as well as establish dominance in the Council of Governors. But Simba, really, when you say the kids. As we're speaking, we saw something, we observed something with the kids,
that was from
in the general election.
County, isn't it?
Yes, and now again, as early as 10 a.m., pretty much the same occurrence.
I mean, we were still within the election, and somebody did say when it comes to technology, and the good thing I like about that is that IEBC actually did say that they have 6 of them. So the first one will fail, they'll go to the second one. If the second one fails, they'll go to the third one, fourth one, up to 6. If the 6th one fails, then that's when they then draw in that manual voter register, and then after that they go in and then get to recognize you from that register. But one of the things that IEBC is saying, indeed by law we're supposed to vote electronically, and what is electronic at that particular polling station will be used, and anything manual will only be used indeed if the IEBC officials at that particular polling station are verified and really tried their best but failed to get anything electronic working. Same conversation again from the 9th August general election. I don't know whether then who will be to blame, because Wafula Chebukati has totally removed himself from the votes that are ongoing in the various constituencies and counties currently.
Well, as he should. I mean, he's not the key player in this one, is he? Because really, the fact and issue was, as Imi was saying, Chebukati should distance himself from these particular elections, probably not be involved at all. And they made that clear, that really they can go on without him being actually involved. And that doesn't stop the other Kenyans from really exercising their democratic rights and voting in their leaders into, the respective assemblies. So really, I think it is in order, even as the Supreme Court is working on the now facts-in issue as far as the general elections that we just concluded are concerned. Chebukati has made it clear that, you will continue with your, elections. And of course, I'm also seeing some clarity there, a bit of relief for the IEBC commissioners from what he called harassment that made them postpone these particular elections from the 23rd August to now, the 29th.
And actually did come up with that as well. He said that one of the reasons as to why I have cancelled this election is because majority of the IEBC officials as well were getting harassed. Some of them are attacked. Actually, we've seen that. Some of them have gone missing as well. And yes, indeed, those reports have been there. And when you look at it, you will say that indeed they are grounded reports, especially as to why we think that it's okay for him to cancel those elections. But then, Anki, eyes are on the big races as far as the election is concerned as well, because what we do know, eyes are on the Kakamega County gubernatorial race and the Mombasa gubernatorial race as well. Now, what we do know, in Mombasa County, it is head-to-head with Abdul Somad Nasir of ODM and Hassan Omar of UDA. It's a hotly contested region. We've seen both leaders of the two coalitions in the country, that is Azimio and UDA, really drumming up support in that particular county as well. Again, in Kakamega County as well, there are 7 aspirants who want to replace Wycliffe Oparanya. Top of that, we have to look at Malala and Ferdinand Baraza, who are viewed as the front runners in this particular one, with another one for Samuel Mukoko, who's Maendeleo Democratic Party, seen as the front runners in this particular race in Kakamega County. So really, the election is not done, because if you look at these particular regions, both of these coalitions do have interest in them. So it's going to be exciting to see exactly how it turns out today amid lower voter turnout, with majority of the candidates saying the way IEBC cancelled the election is going to determine who comes out the winners in this particular counties as well.
So I don't know, we're trying to actually find pictures in those particular, areas. So if we do have then Kakamega ready, would be really glad to see how the, the wake of this morning looked like in those particular areas. What we then captured, however, Simba, when we started this conversation today, is that, as you have mentioned, quite slow, as far as the voter turnout is concerned. Still, like we witnessed in the August 9th general elections, Kenyans not very enthusiastic generally. As we're looking at Mombasa, I would say that really. Do you remember how we would be at polling stations? Do you remember how we had faith in queuing and casting that ballot, and we wouldn't even leave after voting, leave alone the violent side of it? But you would actually see that enthusiasm. Right now, likes of you-know-whom are actually choosing work over queuing, and it's quite interesting. Anyway, in Mombasa, they were still saying the low voter turnout was being recorded, and still hopefully, you mentioned that it's because they're just taking one name, so the queues are moving faster. Why wouldn't you go there earlier, take earlier, and go back to your duty?
But anyway, it's still wait and see, isn't it? Because we do have all the way up to 5 p.m. before these particular polling stations are going to close. So for us, it's just to track exactly how the voting is going to go throughout the day. And if we got anything to report in between, guess what? We shall be keeping a tabs on this one. Even today, I'm told, even during Lookup Business, and I have to interject once here and there just to keep up with what is going on the ground as far as these particular areas are concerned. Remember, just 8 places in the country that are seeing sort of a by-election, you would call it, by the way, in this particular one. But most importantly, all eyes on Mombasa and Kakamega counties, where we're seeing a battle between ODM and UDA to front the candidates in their supremacy battle.
All right, now we want to take a short breather. However, also in between this hour, we'll be having you know, the people from the legal fraternity, I would call them counsels, advocates, and lawyers in their own capacity, just coming in to shed light on what is now the status quo politically in this country. As we have mentioned, really, there's activity in 8 particular regions in this country. We're looking at the gubernatorial races, we're looking at the MCA and members of parliament now, of course, being, you know, elected in different areas, but also not forgetting that we have the presidential results of the general elections conducted this year being challenged at the Supreme Court. For Kenyans who really want to understand the legalities around it, what we're looking at, and of course just following up closely that today was pretty much the last day, Simba, if I have that correctly, for the respondents to actually file in their response. We're looking at this particular case hearing kicking off officially tomorrow. So we're hoping to actually understand this as we continue. Simba, what might you have picked of interest as far as this, you know, case or ongoing petitions in the Supreme Court are concerned?
Well, it's going to be interesting what the DCI is going to present at the court in as far as the hacking claims of the portal were concerned. And whatever it is that the Venezuelans then did to the portal, because again, they're claiming that they had access even 5 months before the election, as well other areas around the meetings between the two parties, that is Wafula Chebukati and Amos Wako and Rafael Tuju. Really interesting for me. That's exactly what I'm going to see. And the disparities in the Form 34 is that indeed a random assessment is already showing that they do have a lot of errors that then would have varied the percentages of both Raila Amolo Odinga and William Ruto, the president-elect. But Anki, I leave that to you because I do know the conversation next is just to look around areas, the election as far as the legal issues are concerned. I'll be joining you later on during the day from 11 to 12. We'll be coming back with Lookup Business. We're going to look at the state of the small, medium enterprises in the country in this campaign period. I'll take a break.
Very well, Simba, we take a short breather. We come back with the conversation as far as these stories making headlines are concerned. Don't forget to be part of the conversation by using the hashtag #TheMorningDrift. And remember, your voice is the power. And really, the most powerful title in the nation is the private citizen. We'll be right back. Don't go too far away.
advocate.
All right, you are watching Lookup TV. Thank you very much for choosing to stay with us. And of course, I'm being joined here by an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Mr. Timothy, who will shed more light, as we touched on earlier on what exactly is currently happening in the country. But to again bring you up to speed, today, Monday morning, we have seen the opening in 8 electoral areas, voting for that matter, including in Mombasa and Kakamega governor races, in key elections that are acid tests. That is what political analysts will say for President-elect William Ruto and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga. Now, most of you are thinking, is it right, was it right for IEBC to postpone this twice? And of course, are we hoping that these things go well today so we don't have another disruption? Well, we'll get to hear from the legal side, but the elections were postponed on August 9th, the date of the general election, after what the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, said was ballot papers mix-up, and were again pushed forward on the August 23rd after the commission cited, this time therefore, intimidation and harassment of its staff. A lot of Kenyans would ask, was it worth it? And what does the Constitution say, therefore, in the power of Wafula Chebukati to postpone these particular elections to today? The polls now being held today are Mombasa and Kakamega governor elections, as well as member of parliament races in Kacheliba and, of course, Pokot South. We're seeing Rongai in Nakuru County, Kitui Rural, Kitui County. Also going to the polls today are voters of Nyaki West, North Imenti constituency, Meru County, and Kwanjenga Embakasi South constituency, Nairobi County, to elect their members of the county assembly. We'll come into the kits that now we're seeing. As Simba continually says, and many other political analysts and lawyers would say, we expect failure of these particular electronic systems, but then there is a backup which is also constitutional. So let's follow up this conversation with Wakili on set. Remember to ask as many questions as you can. Challenge the conversation if you wish as well, and share your perspectives on what is currently ongoing. I would call the political status quo as far as the mini elections are concerned, and now the battle on the general elections, declarations by the IEBC at the Supreme Court. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister.
Oh my goodness, you just started by good morning, my sister. Thank you for the light note. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's good to see you.
Pleasure.
Most of the times, learned friends have a very powerful way of introducing themselves. In case I missed the hat you wear, would you mind to reintroduce yourself so we understand in what capacity you're gracing the studio today? Karibu.
Thank you. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, practicing here in Nairobi. I'm also an environment lawyer, and I champion for youth rights. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for creating time out of your busy schedule. And of course, it's a big day still, just as it was on the 9th of August for the Kenyans in the designated areas where we're actually seeing the elections happening today. We'll be bringing in a few pictures here and there in those particular areas to see how things are going. But let's start with understanding why we had this push, the postponement as we begin, so that Kenyans understand legally the IEBC was correct, because we do know that now IEBC is on the spot for many other issues. There's leadership, there's the division, but now let's just talk about the mini elections today. Legally, this is right in the Constitution that we have seen postponement twice, and now we are actually seeing the elections being carried out in those respective areas this morning.
Yes. Constitutionally, there's no provision for that, but when you look at the Elections Act provide for that. They provide on a way which the Commission can postpone an election. And Chebukati has done a gazette notice as required by law, and he has notified all the general public, and all is well legally.
So legally, all is well, and Chebukati is acting in his power. The commission is still, according to the Election Act, within its, powers. But there has been a concern, therefore, of, Chebukati's involvement or still being head of the IEBC, even as these mini-elections continue. Some people purporting, therefore, that he has some power, some influence. He is leaning on one side politically, and then, usually, when cases like this are in court, people are hoping then that we do not have this antagonistic, issues trickling down even to the mini-elections. What would you say as this is still underway, concurrently with the petitions in court?
What I'll say is legally, Chebukati's work is only to facilitate.
Okay.
The Commission's work is only to facilitate a fair and transparent election. The person who is overseeing the election, for example, in Kakamega and in Mombasa, is the county returning officer who has been gazetted. And when you look at the constituency elections, there are some returning officers who are gazetted. Same case to the ones who are going to oversee the MCA elections. So Chebukati has no direct control over it.
Okay.
His work is only the presidential, who is just the national returning officer. So I do not see any claim of bias. Yes.
So we're looking at a free, fair, credible, election process at those levels, yeah?
Yes.
But even as we're doing this particular election, sir, allow me to, give us a bit of a history why there has been panic. And even on the August 23rd, we saw, himself, Wafula Chebukati, who is the chairperson of the IEBC, saying, we are postponing this because we are citing harassment and intimidation of the IEBC commissioners. When you mentioned then the county returning officers, etc., as far as security is concerned, as far as legally and as binding as it is, how sure are we that even as we're speaking, we're not going to be seeing these disappearances of these particular commissioners? Kenyans are still in a panic mode. They need to understand, after these occurrences, what are we seeing differently? As far as even the courts are concerned, there are cases, there should be cases, questioning what has happened. We just, laid to rest one of the, staff members of the IEBC just last week. What is really the status quo as far as the judiciary corridors are concerned, so that even the officers right now feel confident that what is happening will not touch anything besides the work they're doing?
I think generally the elections there are some stakeholders involved. One, we have the security sector. We also have the judiciary. We also have the public, and we also have the professionals. I think we should all entrust each other so that the elections happen to be free, fair, and if there's any dispute, we can take it to court. And we should trust our judiciary system so that now anything that happens, it happens for the goodwill of Kenyans and not the goodwill of politicians or any other person involved in the elections.
All right.
Yeah.
But as you're speaking right now, you're talking about working in unison, which is really, really accurate. I agree. I am in agreement with that. But as you're speaking, is it really what we witness in this country? As far as elections are concerned, are they working in unison? Are we saying we are one? As far as the stakeholders are concerned, from your own perspective, even as you sit as a legal, lawmaker, as part of the, the judiciary corridors in your own capacity?
Before the elections, we saw there was a committee that was made in preparedness of the election.
Exactly.
We had the CJ there, we had the DCI, we had the IG, we had different stakeholders coming together, and there were some complaints where people were saying, if so-and-so is there, they'll be biased, but they need to work together for the interest of Kenyans. Now, post is where now we see at the Supreme Court, where now everybody is there. We have the DCI who are going to make a response.
Exactly.
Advocates have made. We have the petitioners.
The activists.
Activists also. And it's going to be a fair, and let's look forward to justice being served by our judges at the Supreme Court.
I respect that when a case is actually in court, we most probably always refrain from saying so much on the ongoing case. However, if you have any questions as well, let's continue to have this conversation on social media. We are live on Facebook as we're speaking, and as much as we are still catching up with Wakili on set, and he has continued to emphasize and reiterate working together, that is amongst all the bodies and stakeholders that oversee the general elections, he is continually saying if there is any dispute whatsoever, it is moved then to the courts, because also shortly we'll be looking at the developments at the Supreme Court. And I'm sure that when we cross over that side, Wakili will be sure to give us a bit of hints or glimpses here and there on what to expect as far as response are concerned. But of course, as we are speaking, there's an aspect about the kids' failure. Sometimes it's not very clear to the common wananchi why then we have to wait for failure 1, failure 2, failure 3, failure 4 perhaps, before we then revert or move to the manual, registers. Would you make sense of this? Even as we're speaking, we're seeing some failure of kids in certain areas, including Kakamega, which is, looking at the gubernatorial race, very importantly. Could you make sense of what IEBC is doing as far as the kids are concerned?
I really think the way IEBC has given out a provision for using until the 6 KIMS kit.
Yes.
Because, as you know, Kenya as a country, we have really progressed in terms of technology. However, there are some little challenges here and there that we face. So I think it is better that if KIMS kit fail, then we can resort to manual. But how I wish that none of the kits will fail, so that there will be no issue.
They are already failing. Yeah?
Then I think we'll have to revert back to manual.
Why wouldn't there be then? You remember there was already a very antagonistic conversation, which was very, some would term it ugly, for a lack of a better word, on our screens and in those rallies when Azimio really wanted the KIMS kit, or the electronic register for that matter, to be used, pretty much at the same time, not really as a backup, but concurrently with the the electronic. And really it was we went to court. There was a final, where the court say use it as a backup, and this is what we're actually seeing, that after the 6th, that's when we use it. Is that correct?
Yes. There's a decision by our Court of Appeal led by our President, Honorable Justice the President Musinga, and what he said in the judgment is that we cannot really rely on manual. The country has progressed.
All right.
However, if the electronic system fails, then we can use the manual as backup. What the claims that were made in the political sphere, I don't think they were really of essence. And we know when you use manual, there are some things that are done behind the scenes, ghost voters, manipulation, and we also have ballot stuffing. Since there is no record to show that, you see, with electronic device, you cannot lie, because unless the system is manipulated, whereby if it's manipulated, we are also going to see behind the scenes who entered, what did he or she do inside the system. Yes.
So even when you take these battles to the court, which are usually based on evidence,
yes,
when we are talking about now the being challenged now general elections, which we'll delve deeper into shortly, then you're actually saying that even then, when issues erupt and the errors, etc., then it is right and wise for the country to first go electronically and then with the manual backup. So you do say that as a country, we are well placed for the decisions we make.
Yes, we are.
All right, we continue to focus more on what's going on, but just to give you a brief as we cross over to, the pictures of the gubernatorial races happening in Kakamega and Mombasa counties, there is an aspect of lower voter turnout. You see, when it happened on the 9th August, we thought perhaps voter apathy, but then after everything then happened, we're looking at Kenyans still a bit on a go-slow today, and I don't know what would be your thoughts on the same, because really it seems to now be a pattern. We're going to go on lower turnouts, even lower as we go on, but we're yet to see then. It's just 10:34 a.m. Maybe the Kenyans will actually wake up and go, maybe we'll see longer queues, but as far as this morning is concerned, we're still seeing records of very, very low voter turnout. What would your perspective be on this?
My perspective on that is right now the economy does not allow somebody who works and lives in Nairobi and was registered in Kakamega or in Mombasa to travel and vote and come back. Mind you, this is somebody who took a child back to school in 2 weeks' time. Yet, price of unga is still the same. Price of fuel is going to go up in the next, it's already high. So I don't think, unless maybe, how I wish that the government could have produced or have made subsidies on how to encourage more voter turnout. How I wish we could have an electronic voting system. Some of the people, the voters, could be voting in their offices while at work, and some could be voting at home at their own convenience, wherever they are. How I wish we can employ those ones in the nearby future.
You actually made a lot of sense there when you talked about people actually usually travel to their respective polling stations to actually cast that vote, and now, in the midst of everything else coming back to normalcy in the country, it was quite, difficult, a dilemma for these particular people. What is the situation like, if you allow me to ask those who are watching from these particular areas? How is it as at this morning? We want to actually cross over to the reality on the ground in Rongai, in Kakamega, as far as the mini elections are concerned. And of course, we're looking at the mini polls as far as the parliamentary seats and gubernatorial seats races, if you would like, are concerned. Let's just cross over and see really what is it like this morning in those particular areas. And first we start with Kakamega and Rongai. We'll be right back. Don't go too far away. We continue this conversation. Take a look.
Nimekuja kwa laini, nimekaa, ati mashini imeharibika. Hatuwezi kujua hii mashini inaharibika kwa njia gani. Kama hawataki kuweka mashini, waweke manual. Sasa wa mashini, wabadilishe mashini, walete ingine. Hatutaki maneno ya kucheza hapa.
Na nimefika hapa mida ya saa 11:30. Nimekaa hapa, nimeamka mapema, nimeacha wife kwa blanketi. Saizi sasa hata sijui nikirudi huko itakuwa namna gani, kwa sababu ilifaa nipige kura haraka ili niweze kurudi. Sasa mimi nashangaa tukiendelea kukaa hivi tutakaa hivi hadi lini? So mtufanyie hivi haraka, mazee tupige kura, tupitishe msee wetu, sisi tufanye magani tuende kwetu.
Kura Emmanuel na kura nyingi ziliibwa. Hatutaki kura Emmanuel, mtuletee mashini tupige kura tukitumia vitambulisho vyetu tafadhali.
what is actually going on as far as the mini elections are concerned. And that is just Kenyans, decrying certain hitches here and there as far as the electoral process is concerned, the gubernatorial race. And I have actually heard and seen, just as you have, one of them shouting, it's already been rigged. It's, what the common word is, stolen. And sometimes, really, Wakili, welcome back. I feel there's need for more civic education when things like this and utterances like this really pop, especially, we'll talk about the Kim's kids. We've seen the failure. They are very enraged. But when utterances like Emeibwa, because when we just concluded the general elections, we saw observers, we saw political analysts, we saw articles writing how there was, misinformation and fake news rushing all over social media. Perhaps we need to understand what then we have as law, as far as writing this is concerned, making these declarations are concerned, and even the utterances we've just had in these respective, areas earlier.
I think what IBC should do, they should do more of civic education, so that now they are able to educate the public on what is an irregularity in terms of elections. When a Kim's kit fails, there is no irregularity.
All right.
This is Africa, this is Kenya, and nobody is perfect. Even the technology is not, it can't be very perfect. So they are supposed to educate the public on if, and they are told that, hey, if a Kim's kit fails, then we will do this, this, and this. And then they be educated on what is an irregularity. For example, ballot stuffing, that's one of the irregularity. We also have bribery, that's an irregularity. But failure of a Kim's kit, no.
Delays?
Delays, no.
Because we have seen instances where polling stations are opened as late as midday.
Yes, but...
Would it be suspicious?
No, it won't be suspicious, because you also see, even if it opens at 8, they compensate by extending time. Normally, it's usually polling stations open up at 6 and close at 5. But even in the previous general election, we saw in Wajir, whereby the election was even done the next day.
Due to insecurity issues, that
is. Yes.
All right. So a lot of Kenyans, but really, I wouldn't blame it on Kenyans per se. You see, the electoral court allows for the civic education as one of the preparations IBC has to be putting in place. So really, if you were to put forth, how they should do this, because I remember the aspects of timelines, including even when the declarations were made, you would hear Chebukati against the four commissioners saying, constitutionally, he was allowed 7 days to make that, declaration. So the IBC chair was actually trying to beat the timelines. With the timelines that were given, one of the advocates said we have 5 years to prepare for the election. Civic education, where does it lie? And if we were to actually say Kenyans at the grassroots do not have this information, no wonder we see aspects of violence, misunderstandings, and declarations on social media. What should we be doing differently? And should we hold IBC accountable this time?
I think what we should be doing differently is funding the commission adequately.
It was funded, sir.
It was funded this year, but previous years, this is how election preparedness happens. Immediately after the 2017 elections, we saw IEBC being underfunded. Outside here, people were saying, wanataka pesa ya nini? So, the parliament underfunded. It only came until the last year's budget, it's when it increased, and this year's. But how I wish they could provide adequately for the commission from 2017 to enable them prepare slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly. Look at how the judiciary has been preparing for the elections. It started by training of judges, training of magistrates, training of court clerks. They've even employed new court clerks, so that now, come 2022, they are able to be adequately prepared. And you've even seen now we are filing online. So it means that if the Treasury funds the commission very well,
all right.
For example, after now these 2022 elections, immediately after, they should just be funding them sufficiently to enable the commission conduct civic education. And how I wish the commission employs more of mashinani than these towns that we only see education happening in towns. Like when I go back to our villages, it's hardly do I see those civic education happening there.
All right. I'll take this on a light note, though. Usually we see a lot of cases emerging after gubernatorial races and member of parliament kind of races are concluded. What does it then take? Under what circumstances do we see these particular cases arise? Before then we cross over to what we're looking at as the presidential petitions at the Supreme Court. Now at the level of what we're seeing right now, the gubernatorial races, the MCAs, and the members of parliament, which usually make majority of the cases in courts, especially after we conclude even the presidential petitions, we see, you know, somebody saying, oh, I challenge this particular parliamentary seat, this particular governor's seat. What usually happens and under what circumstances legally and constitutionally are they allowed to challenge these particular positions?
In 2013, we had about less than 200 petitions. In 2017, before the Supreme Court decision was rendered, the whole country, there were less than 100 petitions. After the Supreme Court decision was issued, we had petitions skyrocketed to about 380 something.
Exactly.
If I'm not wrong. So, most candidates who are unsatisfied, they've just keep them on hold to wait and see how the Supreme Court decision, because the Supreme Court decision rendered is binding to all other courts. So I think most of them are waiting, and they'll come look for us during the last week and give us a lot of work, pile pressure on us to file within, because they're supposed to be filed 30 days after. So right now, I've had the only few petitions that have come up.
All right.
And legally, there is no election court that has been, that is there. What will happen now, immediately after the 30 days is over, the Honorable Chief Justice is going to gazette specific judges to hear the gubernatorial and the MP, senatorial and MP elections, and is also going to gazette honorable magistrates who are going to deal with the MCA petitions. So we are waiting to see the Supreme Court decision, and also on the legal side, we're also going to see how our jurisprudence is going to grow. Yes.
And it was quite, you know, it's a bit of humor there when you said most of these particular, you know, gubernatorial candidates, or those who lost, are waiting to hear then the verdict or the decision of the Supreme Court then, then come in with their cases. What are your thoughts of what is currently going on at the Supreme Court? As we're looking at now, let's cross over. We'll continue to give you the updates of the mini elections happening in the respective 8 regions as far as the gubernatorial races, member of parliament and MCAs races are concerned. But let's touch a bit on the Supreme Court. It's very important that we understand that how many days does the court have now to actually listen in and hear this particular 9 presidential petitions as from today. I do understand, if I'm correct, Wakili, is that today was the last day given to the respondents to file their response. Is it?
No, the response were filed by Friday, 2 p.m. And then what they did a rejoinder within 1 day. That brings it to about Saturday, Sunday. Today is the day where they are going to file. Today is the last day for filing interlocutory applications. These are the applications whereby they come interim, like I've seen the one by Azimio, the one that they are saying they want servers to be opened, put in this and that and that. So those are the applications. Tomorrow, you're going to have a pre-trial. And then immediately after pre-trial, the court is going to direct whether we proceed for hearing, and we await for the verdict by Monday next week.
All right. So do we see this going to be a little longer? What are we looking at? What are the provisions as far as this case is concerned? Because as it stands right now, Kenyans are anticipating in anxiety to hear from the still sitting President Uhuru Kenyatta. He's quite silent. Kenyans saying it's deafening silence. What are we looking at? Is it longer time? There's still a bit of tension in the country. Let's agree on that.
Legally, under our constitution, the president is only enjoying incumbency.
All right.
There are some powers he cannot do, and I think right now it is better. I saw him recently. He said he's going to offer a smooth transition.
Yes.
So I prefer him being silent than him being vocal and biased and partisan on the two presidential aspirants that we have.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you actually think legally he's doing what ought to be done and is safer, or the country is safer with his silence. All right, let me just give a bit of the developments that have happened as far as this case is concerned. So very quickly, in the updates, the 3 Venezuelans, and of course I'm going to get my feed shortly with that particular information, but we have seen twists and turns. Of course, we must agree that both of these particular teams are very consolidated legal teams.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. But of course we are seeing evidence coming in. You've followed closely now Tuju and Amos Werkel having been mentioned. And of course, now the response that we're seeing, I know you will not touch most on this, but what does this twist mean to the case today?
I think in my opinion,
yes.
The evidence that is coming up by Rifle Tuju and the other witnesses is what is going to be looked at in court. With this less time that we have, is that evidence admissible? Mind you, we do not have time to bring in Tuju to testify before court, to do 1, 2, 3. There's no time.
Okay.
So the court is going to look at whether that evidence is admissible. The second thing, whether they can rely on that evidence.
Okay.
And what the Supreme Court is going to look at, whether was the law followed. I think all these other things are just sideshows and stuff.
All right.
Just
Wakili, would you really say these are sideshows, including this particular development? I'll just hear that from you, because this is the heart of a nation. This is the future of a nation. This is the economy of the nation. It lies in the transition of power in that particular, executive arm of government. And I don't know what you'd say about the 3 Venezuelans who were arrested upon landing in Nairobi 2 weeks before the general elections, had not been contracted by the Electoral Commission, that is what they say, but had access to its servers. 5 months before the disputed polls, a forensics analysis now shows. Now, of course, the analysis of computers confiscated from the 4, their names would be difficult, but Salvador, Javier, Jose, and of course Joel Gustavo by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, show that the 3 were among dozens of non-independent electoral and boundaries commission IEBC staff who had extensive access to the agency's servers, and of course that is according to the dailies. And now this access, granted through a company linked to a senior politician from the Northeastern, is currently among various electoral fraud matters being investigated by the DCI, whom the Azimio Coalition wants to be summoned to the Supreme Court to testify in their petition. What would you say, all right, based on this particular information now surfacing among other things? These people got access, and they say extensive access. They were not contracted by the IEBC. What are we looking at as far as security? In this case, IT, among other things, is concerned. Is it heavier than we thought?
I think this is one of the issues that has been raised by one of the petitioners.
Yeah, the facts in issue?
Yes.
Okay.
It's one of the facts of issue. I think now the ball has now rolled to the court, and we are going to see how are they going to tackle the issue of the Venezuelans and the hacking of the system and everything. But mind you, You know, anything that happens in Kenya after the elections are done, you know, it usually dies completely. We do not see action being taken thereafter.
All right.
So how I hope and pray that our security personnel, apparatus and system, they are able to follow up post the judgment on if whether there was hacking, let action be taken against those people. Even for those Venezuelans, if they did any harm to our electoral system, they can be summoned back.
I know that we are running out of time, but I'd really love to hear from you. This is not the first time we're going to court, disputing the general elections. Do you think we learned at all from 2017? We're yet to hear what the court says then, but do you think that as far as the filings and, of course, the respondents are concerned, are we progressive, as far as the judiciary is concerned? Just in a minute.
Yes, we have really progressed from 2013. And Emeritus Chief Justice Mutunga to Emeritus David Maraga to now our Honorable CJ Madam Makome. The judiciary has really progressed.
Okay.
And our jurisprudence as the legal sector, we have seen it grown. There are some issues that were in 2013 that were raised in 2017, and now 2022, we want to see this term called opaque. How is the court going to interpret it? How is the court going to interpret a split commission whereby this faction is giving this instruction, this other is giving this instruction? And moving forward, what is the mandate of the commission in regards to presidential election petition?
All right. Thank you very much for setting that pace, even as we follow the Supreme Court. This is what it is. Right now, we are focusing on two major things. This week, we're looking at today, Monday, the mini-elections in the 8 respective designated areas. That is constituencies, including matters of the gubernatorial races, etc., all the way to the MCA. We'll be giving you those particular updates, keeping tabs with those particular elections. And also, all eyes are on the Supreme Court. Do not miss anything. Follow us on social media at Lookup TV across all the platforms for accurate and precise information. Wakili, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Do come again.
I will.
All right. Of course, I take a short breather. But of course, the morning drift doesn't end at this. Look at business, of course, given to you and piloted by my co-host, Simba Kiage, will be beginning shortly. Don't go too far away. We'll be right back.
120. That is not the amount of shillings in my pocket. That is not the age that you get to right now and people look at you and think, that's a miracle. That is not the number of kilometers, maybe from here up to Naivasha. It is the number that the US dollar touched on Friday when you compare it with the Kenyan shilling. That's 120 shillings to the dollar. If you go back just a couple of months, we were doing at around 109 at the start of the year. In fact, we said, whoa, 109 is the worst thing we've ever seen for the dollar. But then if you go back last year, by the way, at the beginning of last year, we were not doing so bad. Because you'll find that's when we were 97, 98, 99. But right now, the new normal is 120. In fact, if you talk to majority of the banks, they will tell you we are selling it at different rates depending on where you are. So some of them will give it to you at 125, 128, 126. In fact, 128 is the figure that we have from other bureaus as well, showing you that at the beginning of this year up to where we are right now, in terms of percentage, that is 5.7% depreciation of the Kenyan shilling vis-a-vis the US dollar. And that's huge, because then it has a lot of ramifications, by the way. Because now, even when we pay debt as a country, believe it or not, we are paying more, because then we are paying in dollars. The cost of fuel that whether we are buying in dollars, we are paying more than we were paying for last year. Because if you are depreciating the shilling, then indeed the cost of living down here gets tougher and tougher. So the question is going to be, what has the Central Bank of Kenya done to make sure that indeed the shilling doesn't really run away from the dollar? We'll be telling you what that is this week as well. Those conversations are going to be there. But the question is, even as the market remains uncertain of what is to become of the petition at the Supreme Court that is challenging the 9th August election, the market is already showing the indications of the fact that it doesn't like that. So the better we settle our political differences, the better we'll start to chart, and I'm saying no more in quotes, direction for the Kenyan shilling. That is how we open. My name is Simba Kiage. You're just in time for Lookup Business. A lot that is going to go down today. Most importantly, we are going to discuss the face or the plight of the Kenyan MSMEs in the current political situation. What can be the solution to a sector that employs over 80% of the Kenyan population? Looking forward to that as well. But just before we begin, let's cross over to the newsroom so that we can see exactly the biggest headlines that are taking center stage at this hour. The Central Bank of Kenya weekly report for the week ended Friday, 26th August 2022. So the Kenyan shilling remaining stable against the dollar, trading at 119 shillings and 85 cents on August 25th, which was a slight depreciation from the 119 and 47 cents that it closed the week on at August 18th. The regulator indicated that despite the drop in usable foreign exchange reserves, the week ended with a 4.39 months worth of input cover on August 25th, meeting the regulatory requirement level of 4 months worth of cover. Treasury bill auction on 25th August 2022 underperformed after attracting bids worth 19.4 billion shillings against the advertised amount of 24 billion shillings. Now, the local stock market indices were all pointing south for the week due to the uncertainty in the Kenyan economy on the back of anticipated Supreme Court decision on the 9th August election. Now, the NSE All-Share Index, the NSE 25 and the NSE 20 share price indices declined by 5.3%, 4% and at 2.1% respectively. Now, the bonds market also experienced a hot and cold performance, with a bond turnover in the domestic secondary markets rising by 119.8% during the week. The international market experienced almost a similar trend, with the yields on Kenya's Eurobonds rising by an average of 11.6 basis points, but declined by 9.7 basis points for the 2024 maturity. Juakali artisans in Naivasha, Nakuru County are decrying the rampant land grabbing in the area that is at the brink of leaving them no space to run their activities. Now, the artisans claim that plots of land are being sold out to unsuspecting buyers who are colluding with the county bosses in the area, a factor that has seen the county government lack space for building an incinerator. They now claim that they are being forced to pay for the available space for them to conduct their businesses, and now want the new county government to revoke the newly subdivided prices so as to create space for them.
Sasa inafuza wengine sasa. Sasa tukiweza angaliliwa hiyo uwanja at least tutaweza kuwa tuko kwa ajili. Sasa nimeleta watu wengine nafuza sasa. Sasa na mimi wakikuja niwafunze wengine na wao wafunzane na hapa hiyo. At least because tenda nufaa.
Jua kali imekuwa imejengwa manyumba za mawe. Mpaka jua kali sasa inaenda kuisha. Sasa sisi mafundi hatuna nafasi. Ni kama tumefukuzwa. Juu hata mahali mtu anagongea unakuja unaambiwa hapa sio kwako, ondoka, nataka kujenga. Inajengwa nyumba ya mawe. Sasa imekuwa kama residential, sio jua kali.
Pinyiria mahali pamoja. Kutoka huko nyuma tumekuja sasa tuko barabara. Kumaanisha tukimalizia hii hao wako mwisho tunaenda barabara. Complaints zetu tukipeleka mahali na tunaambia wale wanaingia kwa serikali tuko na shida, wanakuja hawatatui yote kwa sababu wana shida wataanzia wapi. Sasa je, tunajiulizaga sisi ni mafundi wa kawaida tutaanzia wapi? Nani atakuja achukue kilio yetu ili atu push the way forward, kwa sababu sisi hatuna hiyo nguvu.
Serikali ya kaunti iangalie upande wa jua kali kama imenyakuliwa, wajaribu kufuatilia. Pia serikali kuu kufuatilia hiyo jambo.
Kenya's tourism sector has received a shot in the arm after the Masai Mara Game Reserve saw its first tourism college launched. Now, the college's mandate will be mainly research and community service to the Masai Mara environs. The college principal, Mr. Morris, says that plans are underway to come up with a curriculum that will guide in developing courses that students in the college will be undertaking. He further added that issues around conservation should be given priority in promoting the region's tourism activities. Wildlife experts in attendance at the launch of the college stressed on the importance of combating climate change, unemployment and human-wildlife conflicts. They have called on landowners to avail their land for wildlife conservation. The college will link up with the other universities globally to upgrade their degrees to meet international standards. It will also solve the rampant youth unemployment caused by a mismatch in education and the current job market. Newly sworn-in Nyandarua Governor Kiage has told county traders that he has no intention to settle pending bills of the former government until it proves that all the projects were legally approved. The outgoing governor for the county, Francis Kimemia, oversaw pending bills of over 800 million shillings, a situation which has not settled well with the current governor. He was disappointed in the manner majority of the unpaid tenders were issued, adding that procurement procedures were not followed.
Nataka kuhakikishia watu ya Nyandarua, hiyo pending bill inasemekana hapo milioni 800, hakuna kitu kama hicho. Hiyo ni mahesabu watu walikuwa wanajitengenezea ndio waende na pesa. Sisi tutafuatilia tuone ni ile harari tu ambaye tunaweza kufanya mpango ya kulipa. Na hizo zingine basi wenye waliweka watatuambia walitoa wapi, kwa sababu itawezaje kuwa na milioni 800 lakini kazi kwa ground haionekani. Kwa hivyo hilo ni kusema hiyo ni kama kujitakia mambo yao, na hiyo sisi kama serikali hatutapoteza hata shilingi moja ya watu ya Nyandarua kupitia pending bill ambaye haifai kulipwa.
Now, in a stark contrast to the Nyandarua County Governor's plan to dish pending bills payment, Kiambu County Governor Paul Kimani Wamatangi has promised to settle all the pending bills in the county in less than 1 year. Kiambu County has a total of 5.3 billion shillings worth of pending bills, which the new governor promised to put top of his agenda once he fully assumes office.
Vijana wetu ukapewa kazi, ukaambiwa kuja uhudumie kaunti yako, na mpaka siku ya leo haujapata haki yako na pesa zako. Hii serikali ambayo umechagua siku ya leo na kulipa nyadhifa kama governor na vile tulio nao hapa, ndani ya mwaka mmoja ambao sisi tutakuwa tumekaa kwenye ofisi, tutahakikisha ya kwamba pesa zenu zimelipwa. Nitawaita tukiwa na hao viongozi, tutaongea pamoja na tutatafuta njia ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba haki yako, pesa zako, na nikisema hivyo nasema nikiwa ninajua.
Narok County workers have no reason to worry about the safety of their jobs as the new government takes over. Narok Governor Patrick Ntutu calls on the county employees to put in more effort to deliver to the county residents or risk facing the sack. Ntutu was responding to allegations that he planned to sack some of the employees who worked in the former Governor Samuel Tanui's administration and employ a new team. That story didn't run. Fantastic. Guess what? At this particular time, I would like us to take a tiny little break. Once we come back, then we'll be looking at exactly how the markets are faring on at this hour. Then once we come back, then we'll be joining one important guest who's joining us in the studio then to talk about the state of MSMEs in the country shortly after this break. Well, welcome back. At this point, let's cross over swiftly and look at exactly how the markets are trending at this hour. Remember, the sentiment is wait and see. All the way from when we started the elections up to this particular time. Let's then see exactly how we opened this morning after a weeks of trading last week. And that means that we're going to go straight and look at where we are in terms of the biggest gainers. We do expect the majority of the banking quarters indeed are going to form majority of the top fives. All right, let's cross over and look at that at this particular minute. Let's start with the top gainers, and we're really looking at the banks. That's where the conversation comes from. And indeed, NCBA was able to make it onto that particular one with NCBA at 29.25. That's the biggest convo there, because indeed a banking quarter is coming in, and this is at the back of the good results that we saw majority of the banking quarters give us after indeed we got to see what their half-year results were looking like. Now that is a 9.96% change, and that jump is really huge, because if you look at the biggest gainer to where NSC is, then you can see it is just a 3-point-something% change, and you will really talk about how trading was on Friday, and that's exactly how we opened up this morning. The update on this, Sasini looks to be making an entrant into that, because right now we're talking about an 8.29% for that particular one, and we do have Cooperative Bank also closing in that list currently after these 2 hours and 20 minutes of trading at 2.9%. Let's move into the next one and talk about the biggest losers as of Friday trading. And on that, yes, indeed, we do have them. And again, Sasini comes in at 21.15. That's exactly how they opened this morning. Indeed, you could buy that share at 21 shillings. And then that represents a negative 10% change from where they were Thursday. And Bamburi, by the way, we expected that they're going to be in the top losers list, because if you saw that particular profit, I mean, when your profit is reducing from 776 million to just 95 million, in fact, that was the biggest shocker last week. They actually did cancel their dividends as well. So that's a reaction to the investors really not happy with that result, because you can actually see now they did close at 34 shillings, that representing a 9.8% change, and they are also forecasting this result towards the end of the year, because they're talking about the current inflation, the cost of inputs going by what the shilling is against the dollar, so not so much of a surprise there in terms of them being in this top losers list. And housing finance also is coming in at 3.33, not so much of a surprise for Housing Finance Corporation as well, because indeed we've been knowing that that particular stock has been struggling in terms of the value at the NSA. All right, let's close in then to the biggest movers. Currently, we do have NTBA at 48,700, but let's see exactly where they were Friday. Indeed, you would expect. Now, this is what majority of analysts were calling an election-ridden trading or market, because under here you will have essentially the big boys that will come in from time to time when you're trying to see how was trading, because Safaricom comes in at 4.5 million shares. That's huge, especially when you look at that trade, and I will tell you why. Because Cooperative cancelled their dividends, NCBA cancelled their dividends as well, majority of the banking quarters cancelled their dividends, so you would wonder, where would people put their money right now? It is in Safaricom, definitely, and that's why we have 4.5 million worth of shares traded as of Friday, essentially taking the entire part of the market. That's the biggest conversation from them, because we haven't seen them cancel their dividend. We're still waiting for that result. So them being like this is essentially what tells you that the markets are reacting to the cancellation of dividends from the rest of them, because Bamburi cancelled, we did have Stanchart cancelled, majority of the banks cancelled. So where do you put your money? Other than the banking quarters, it is an EABL and Safaricom, essentially representing that. That is how the markets look. We do have Safaricom again leading at this particular hour. Kenyan as well. APSA is in that as well. Cooperative Bank is in there. And APSA is closing that top 5 list after 2 hours and 20 minutes of trading. That's how we look. So let's ask ourselves the question then, if everybody is crying of high inflation, the instability in the market right now, going by what is at the Supreme Court, the 80% employment quota of the economy, the MSMEs in the country, where are they? And the promises that we've seen majority of the governments were waiting to take over coming, are they going to be able to solve it? The plight of majority of MSMEs in the country, once we come back right here on our Lookup Business.
Simba.
Welcome back. You are watching Lookup TV. This is Lookup Business. My name is Simba Kiage. Now, let's talk about MSMEs, because it's a conversation that will never get to really stop having as an economy. Because if you're talking about 80% of employment in Kenya stemming from this particular sector, then the importance of this particular sector really can be underscored. So the question now becomes then, if you look at the economy, majority of businesses are crying of the state of business in the country right now. The uncertain political environment, high taxation that is owing from the high inflation, and a high cost of doing business in the country. And the question becomes, what is the exact plight of MSMEs in the country? And let me welcome to the conversation then Simon Gishuki, who's the director of AfriBoard Rank Limited. Simon, how are you doing, sir?
Fine, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Anytime. Let me begin this conversation from a very basic point. It is interesting that when you ask anybody, like, which is the most important sector in the country, that will say, well, the MSME sector in the country is the most important. When you look at the GDP that it gives the country and the employment numbers, very important. But then you say, which sector still has majority of problems that have not been solved? Again, they will tell you is the MSME sector in the country. This difference, where does it come from?
Thank you very much. I don't think we have a lot of problems in the sector.
Would you say that, Simon?
I think what we have is yes. Growth beyond our expectations. You start a business with 2 million, and a couple of years it's doing 10, 20 million a year.
Yes.
You start at Juakali, where you expect to do maybe 100,000 a month. You start doing 1 million. So the more you are able to do good business, the more you get out of challenges that come with compliance, that come with the tax man, that come with the HR
yes.
aspects, financial aspects. So ideally, it's a good problem, because as you're growing in a business, you will have challenges as you get to a certain level.
Yes.
Again, we are in an era where we have a lot of competition. So what you'd call a problem to you is actually because your competitor is doing better. He's pushing you out of business. So you will not be able to do the sales because you refuse to change. You refuse to evolve your business. If you do not grow from what you're doing and push it to something else, or you look at the market, you look at the world, where are we headed, you will be stuck with the same product you're selling. Years down the line, you'll be saying our businesses are not doing well. But basically, it's not because they're not doing well, it's because you refuse to evolve. If it's about financing, if you've totally refuse to figure out how do I finance my businesses, you'll keep saying, I need more money to put into this business. But what else can you do over and above that? So I don't think SMEs have a problem. They just need to understand that they are equally growing. So that aspect of owner managed also moves to you having owner managed and managers also managing for you. So you get the right expertise, you get the right technical capacity, and you grow your businesses.
A lot of people will fight you, especially when they hear you have this perspective of Kenyan MSMEs. Essentially, this problem that we're calling a problem is actually you need to turn it over the other side and look at it differently. But even the World Bank, when they look at the Kenyan MSME sector, when they start outlining some of the challenges that we face, they will say, number one, funding. Number two, formalization. Number three, the cost of doing business in this country is very high. Let's begin with that one. Formalization of the MSME sector in the country. Do we even understand what an MSME is, Simon?
Yes, we do. And the big problem with SMEs is us putting corporate governance in it.
Yes.
Ideally, I think most of us are still at that stage where you run the business in kijua kali, let me use that word.
Yes.
Then get some point and you need a bit of professionalism. You need to put the right structures. And I think we still don't want to lose control over that business. You still want to be the one doing everything from finance to HR to the product delivery and everything. That becomes a challenge because if you to comply to go to that problem of getting the funding, it means you have to put some right structures in here and there, which is the biggest problem we've had, even myself, in some of these aspects.
Yes.
Because you will realize that after some point the business outgrows you. Now, once you realize that, then you realize you will need to hire more people, you need to bring the right expertise, you will need to move to the right office, you will need to change your clients to the right clients, you will need to change your products to the current products that are required, so that now you come to the other aspects of compliance. When you talk about compliance, you have about so many institutions you're supposed to comply with, which is not illegal. It's actually supposed to help your business. If you're being told to comply with KRA, it's because you pay your taxes on time. It means the government will deliver services. It means your business will grow. If it's the County Act, there are those laws you're supposed to comply with.
Yes.
They are important. If you're talking about the Environment Act, there are things you need to comply with NEMA. They are very important. If you're talking about things to do with disaster, if you're in the hotel industry or in the hospitality industry, they are very important. If you're in the public sector, you know the laws that you're supposed to comply with. We cannot operate in vacuum. So you will need to comply with these laws because at the end of the day, the reason why you comply is because it also gives another funding. Okay.
If you look at
okay.
If you look at the way the Central Bank of Kenya gives us the reports of how banks are lending, then you will see that majority of this money that the banks are supposed to give out to the mass market to grow this business. But even before you start talking about formalization, you also have to be visible. And the only way you do that is that if you start to get this capital that is going to grow your business. But we have a lot of banks in the country, but then you realize the majority of their loan books is going to the government, in government securities. So is the environment pro small business if majority of this money then is not even going to the small businesses?
Okay. There are two ways we look at it.
Yes.
One, if your structures are okay and your books are okay,
yes,
you will approach any bank and they will give you guidelines. There will always be money for SMEs. The only problem is you have to comply with a few things. That's where the problem comes in.
Yes.
You'll have to have done your audit books. So if a good banker looks at your books, can tell whether you qualify for anything or not. They will look at your forecast. That means you must have a strategic plan. So if you don't have a strategic plan, someone will not lend you money not knowing where your future is. Again, you need securities. So if you do not have assets to guarantee your loans, then it means at that point your loan will not fall through. Because at the end of the day, banks are in business. The same way you and MSME is in business. So if you qualify for a loan, then we get to that point where let's discuss collateral. You do not have the right collateral, but your books are okay. Then your loan will not go through. Now that is the one part. The other part where SMEs also fail is because we still do not have that large pool of what you would call either venture capitalists or seed capital guys. Because that is the biggest boost for businesses out there. You will have businesses growing because there's a venture capitalist guy who came in, and looked at your business, again, we go back to the part of compliance. If your structures are very well, there are thousands and millions of venture capitalists out there who will fund your business. Locally, we've not gotten to that level where we can, but we have businesses that have been funded.
Yes.
And if you get the right funding, which will come in form of either a grant or equity, then you'll be able to grow your business. So there are many ways where MSMEs can sit down and figure out which is the best way for me to get my business funded. Of course, everyone will tell you equity is one of the least preferred ones, because that means you're giving someone equity in charge of that. But you look at the pros and cons of the two. If I get a bank loan, 5 years down the line, I'm able to do it. If I get an equity 5 years down the line, will I have made enough money such that whatever I'm left with is equivalent to the equity that I gave out? Because at the end of the day, you want to give equity and grow. So you'd rather have a business worth $1 million, which you own 100%, and someone else would prefer a business where he owns 50%, but it's worth 100 million.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it's a gamble. But bottom line is, funding is available if the structures are well. We have seen not only government, not only banks. Remember, we also have youth fund. We also have this other fund, women enterprise.
Yes.
And counties are coming up with funds for businesses. But at the end of the day, bottom line is there has to be security. Even the microfinance institutions and the credit-only institutions, at the end of the day, they will do that. Again, we have these smaller MSMEs that are doing a lot of table banking. So the funding opportunities are there. It is us, depending on how you've structured yourself, to go for them.
Yes. Now, the disconnect, because then if you as a government are coming in and saying then we're going to promote these smaller businesses to get formalized to the level where even these banks then will start giving them that money. Simon, let's look at the stats. Each year, we have over 800,000 candidates who sit for their, is it the KCPE exams?
KCSE.
KCSE, sorry.
Yes.
But look at how many we graduate each year. So you have very few of those who go to university, they get this knowledge, even on bookkeeping, or even on running business. We like to think that somebody who's gone to university will come back and say, for me then to start this journey for business, this exactly is going to be. So you have people who have not essentially gone to uni or college are the ones who fall back to the smaller businesses. Now, if indeed we are cognizant of that fact, Simon, as a country, the majority of the people who are going to go into the smaller businesses are not essentially the ones that you're thinking will come out here and know exactly how to put a business together.
Yes.
Then have we done something to it?
Let me put it like this.
Yes.
Essentially, you go to school, graduate, and hope to get a job. Business is never a fallback plan. It's something you've thought through. For some, it can be a lucky opportunity where the deja vu moment.
Yes.
I've thought of a product, there's a market, you start a business, and it grows. But how many of those fall under that program? Very few. Most of them are also by chance. You've been doing small-time businesses, then you think you can be an office. But at the end of the day, you all want to sit down and factor business, not as a side hustle. Because again, we have to differentiate between the two. Is it a side hustle because you're looking for a job, or is it something you're starting so that you grow it into a full-time business?
Yes.
Because we are two totally different things. I have a lot of friends who do some business as side hustle, and when you think about it, they actually make more money from this side hustle than their own business. But they will not sit outside the comfort of their work and say, okay, let me do this. Because business is not for the faint-hearted. I don't think any CEO sits down and comfortably says, I am okay now. There will always be a challenge. There will always be something better to do. There will always be a new competition, a new challenge you need to sort, a new strategy you need to work on, a new department you need to set up. So running a business, at that point where you sit down and say you're a CEO, comes with a lot of challenges. So everyone will tell you being in business is nice, but running it requires much more than you sitting down as an employee being given instructions. Yes.
So is the challenge then going to be that if you as a government, you're coming in, I would say exactly what Ruto has done, because we do have him as the president-elect, is look at it manifesto, he has a 50 billion hustler fund. And saying that all this money is here to go to the smaller businesses, which is no different.
But we've always had the youth fund.
Yeah, it's always been
the youth fund from then.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with any funds coming up. But remember, you don't take good money and throw it into bad money. So if you have to fund any business, there has to be structures for that money to ever come in, because I am assuming that fund is a revolving fund. So you benefit, bring back the money, someone else benefits, bring back the money. No, without the right structures, the biggest problem we have even with the youth fund is because people got the money, businesses got to some point, they could not repay the money. So you do not have it as a revolving, because just like HELB, you benefit for a few years, you returned all the money, someone else will benefit. So whichever government comes in and comes in with a fund, the biggest point will be to figure out how do we ensure that this fund, people who get the money, are able to pay back. A good example is the boda bodas. They go to a shop, they buy a motorcycle, they are told to pay 400 shillings a day. Assuming that is the hustlers fund, it will mean in 12 months, when you're done paying the motorbike, or in 2 years, someone else can borrow again another motorbike. But in between, shouldn't you be unable to pay that loan? It means that next year, we not have the money to give someone else a chance.
Yes.
Because that is how even the banks operate. If you borrow money from NCBA today, and you're not able to pay, it goes to bad debts. Over time, those bad debts are the reasons why NBK almost went down. Because there are a lot of bad debts. And bad debts means we can't loan anymore.
So if indeed we are saying that we've not really actualized the potential of the smaller businesses in Kenya, where majority of the youth fall, and we're cognizant of the fact that majority of these businesses are run by the youth, what needs to be done then? So that we are saying that majority of these businesses are not essentially kiosk businesses which only operate within the country, and that's it.
I think it's trusting the MSMEs.
It looks like
if you look at it from any aspect,
anyone
wanting to even do a strategic plan or to set up a conference, they will go to the market and figure out who are the vendors who can do this for us. So if you can trust an MSME to deliver and they deliver, it means you're able to refer them to many more people. But if you cannot trust them to even figure out if they can deliver, they'll never get an opportunity. Because the biggest hope for any MSME in Kenya is the fact that they can walk into a room and get an equal opportunity to present and get business. Without them getting businesses, you will keep asking them for referrals, but you never give them an opportunity. So what referrals do you want them to give you? You go to offices and CEOs will ask you, give us referrals.
Yes.
Then you can ask him, okay, if you cannot trust me, that means that other CEO never trusted me. So where am I supposed to get the referrals from? Because the biggest problem is, look at it from even an aspect of an ICT guy. You do software engineering, so you are able to develop softwares. But no one has ever given you a chance to develop for them an app. They keep asking you, which app have you developed? So without you ever doing the first project, you will not be able to do the second. So it's among us, it's upon us, even ourselves, to come in and give them an opportunity to do good work.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you have to support an MSME so they get something called referrals. And reference sites, sorry, not referral, reference sites. So that if someone asks tomorrow, where have you done this? Or you can ask so and so, you can ask so and so. But in absence of that, we'll still keep saying MSMEs are not doing good. But you've never given them an opportunity.
Yes.
From whatever, or in whatever area, whether it's someone doing furniture, whether it's someone doing suits, whether it's someone doing ICT, strategic planning, management, whatever science. If they're able to pitch and get an opportunity, that's a start. And the beauty of it, I think that's why Agpo came in. So that you avoid such things, such bottlenecks that would enable me not, as a tax audit, not to compete with PwC. Because when you ask for references, PwC will give references from 1898. I can only give references from 0.
That's it.
But you see, Agpo came in to say, if you have an Agpo certificate, no references, they will consider you from that angle.
Yes.
If you're talking about financial statements, PwC, for example, will give very big ones. What will a small tax audit give you? So at the end of the day, when it comes to SMEs, most of them is just about trust.
Yes.
Someone comes and says, that can they do this interior decor? Let's trust you can deliver.
Yes.
Then once they deliver, then you're able to refer them to the second, the third, and the fourth. That is how MSMEs work. Even us, the biggest work we do is because we get a reference from a guy who was happy with our work and gave us another reference to go to. Others, without that first person, you cannot.
Yes.
Yes.
Another school of thoughts are saying, well, another thing that is lacking is law within this country, that where local companies will be mandated that a certain section of their jobs and whatever it is in the order, be it from textile to software development and even consultancy services, they have to give it to the local businesses in the country. Do you think that is missing to some level?
I think laws don't necessarily ensure you get business.
Do they? We've seen other economies like China that have ensured that smaller businesses are actually getting it because
that's a communist
they have
country.
these laws.
It's a communist country.
Yes.
We are a capitalist nation. That means that at the end of the day, when decisions are being made, it's on the best in the market. Communism is where they do not care about the cost because you're one of us, will give you. Capitalist is where I sit down and figure out you're selling this diary at 100 bob, a guy in China is selling for me at 40 bob.
Yes.
I will send my money to China to get it done.
And that's exactly what is killing local businesses.
You're not killing local businesses. Let them offer at the right price.
But we can never
look at it from this. Look at it from this.
There's always an opportunity outside.
Look at it from this angle.
Yes.
If we are able to even, like I complained a while back, and I said, at the end of the day, some of the things we complain, like the road construction, if a Chinese, today you can be able to tell a road done by a Kenyan contractor and a Chinese contractor, but comfortably based on the work done.
That's it.
You can also be able to tell a house is done by Chinese and Kenyans, and we have no problem with that.
But who's largely to blame in that?
It's the contractor. It's not government. Because the same engineer who checked the road being done by Chinese is the same engineer checking the done by a Kenyan contractor.
But then if we don't then struggle to improve the quality that we are offering as a country,
we will lose
even
business.
to the smaller businesses,
we will lose business.
We're never going to improve as well.
Unfortunately, the world is ruthless. It's either you comply or a competitor comes in. Look at a lot of apartments in Lavington area. Are they being done by Kenyan contractors? What is the problem? Because you want your money and you want money to work for you. So who do you trust?
But it's the notion then that the Chinese
it's
are doing...
not the notion.
Is it not
Look
the
at
notion?
even the Kenyan roads.
Yes.
Tell me how many roads you've seen being done by a Kenyan contractor that has lasted 20, 30 years.
Let me ask you, Simon, this Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative, do you fully support it? Because then it's looking then to favor smaller businesses and any other Kenyan entrepreneur who's saying that indeed we can trust our products. You support
I think it's good to support an initiative like Buy Kenyan, Build Kenyan.
Yes.
Up to that level where it serves you. Because that's the honest truth. The sad thing about business, it's about numbers. It's about quality. If it's Buy Kenyan and Build Kenyan, and we are supposed to do suits, and I cannot get quality suits from you, so do I compromise on my quality just because I need to support you as a Kenyan? At the end of the day, patriotism has an edge. I will not sit and wear bad suits just because I want to support you as a Kenyan. But if you bring good quality, we will. I have had good quality t-shirts from EPZ here in Athi River, and I've worn them comfortably. So I'm supporting Kenya. I've had very good things done in Kenya and I bought, including jewelry, including shoes. This is Bata Kenya, good quality leather. If I got the same shoe in another shop, most likely I would stick with Bata. But everyone will tell you, when it comes to quality, we buy Kenya and Build Kenya. We have amazing institutions in Kenya doing good quality products, and it's being procured. So the Buy Kenyan, Build Kenyan also depends on the quality of the things you're getting there. Excuse me. So at the end of the day, we all want to support our own, but we all want to ensure that at the end of the day, we also get quality for the money. Because you do not want to wake up tomorrow, you bought something and it's not fitting, or it has a defect. Tomorrow you will not buy it. But if it is perfect, you will continuously buy it. And at the same time, we also need to appreciate that a lot of the good products done here are exported. So we're also doing a lot of work that is things getting exported. Even our own experts, not only even the goods, even the services. We have a lot of Kenyans. I think there's a company I checked in Uganda, and their entire top management is Kenyans. And I was very happy, because I think from the CEO to the finance, the HR, marketers, they are all actually Kikuyus and Kambas. And I was like, this can't be a coincidence. It means that we're also exporting our services. So even when it comes to MSMEs, some of us are doing businesses beyond the Kenyan borders. Why? Because not only can you send goods, but you can also send your service. Remember, Kenya is way ahead of other countries in terms of our ICT, intellect, and all those things. So when it comes to offering our services out there, we are doing good.
Let's talk about the market, because that's another area that the government has been put on the spot when it comes to identifying working markets for local businesses. Do you think we are there, where indeed other economies are recognizing Kenya as a market for these particular ones, or that again has been left to the MSMEs to shout their best and put their products out there?
I think in terms of us selling our products out there,
yes,
I think we're not doing badly. You will hear someone saying they saw our avocado in China, or our flowers in Netherlands.
And that's because that market has been fully established. We do know exactly what's going on in the avocado
Someone
market.
will always,
And the
you'll
flower
even be
market
very
as well.
shocked. There are a lot of guys doing very good meat in Saudi.
Yes.
And in Qatar. Why? Because at the end of the day, remember, the business is owned by you. You have to do a market survey and figure out where do I sell my product. The government won't do that for you.
But the government has to align the country to that
there is a
market,
Chamber
isn't
of
it?
Commerce.
Yes.
There is a Kenya National Chamber of Commerce
Yes.
that has bilateral agreements with other countries. But when you're taking your product to that other country, it's left between your company and the bureau standards of that country. So if, for example, you're exporting a certain product to a certain country, what the government does is making it easier for you to establish the relationship. Then you comply with the laws there and you're in business. Just like, let's not even go further. If you want to do business in Kigali, there are laws you will comply with that are set by the Kigali government. Then when you're done, you walk in there and look for business. And the opportunities are there. But the government will not sit down and tell you, these are the 10 people who can buy your products. No. They will make it easier for you to get there. Then when you are there, it becomes easier now for you to do that. And that is why we have conferences, exhibitions, so that you go exchange business cards. Set the tone for your products. See what is the best thing you can sell there and start business. But unfortunately, do you attend this? No. I asked the other day, how many of us even attend conferences and exhibitions? We don't. But we want somehow to create a network. How do we create social capital if you as an owner of an SME do not attend a conference or an exhibition? Because at the end of the day, that is the only way you can. There's like last year, there was a CEO's conference in Kigali. That was, I think there were about 700 CEOs. This year in March, we had the Commonwealth Health of State, but there was a business segment. At the end of the day, if you need business there, you go.
Simon, as we come to the end of this conversation, I want to point you out to something that you said. And this also has been a big blame for the Kenyan government, especially when analysts are also looking at the way this sector is performing. The number one, we have essentially failed to identify these businesses that we're calling small in the country. Therefore, if you've not identified them, then even when it comes to training and educating them on exactly what the market standards are, it becomes quite difficult because you don't know who they are. Do you think we failed in that perspective?
No. Because
as an economy that is preaching small businesses, Simon.
You'll be very shocked. KRA does tax training every Wednesday.
But everybody does run away from KRA. We do know that.
Why do you want to run away from there are two things you cannot run away from right now.
Yes.
Death and KRA.
But also KRA is saying, well, majority of these businesses might not be paying their taxes because they don't want to be formalized.
KRA wants us to do electronic ETR.
Yes.
How do you run away from that? Remember, this is what happens. You may not comply with KRA, but I comply with KRA. But we do business. So when I'm filing my returns, I will mark your company. So they'll follow you. At the end of the day, we have to... I don't think there's any nation in the world that operates with SMEs running away from taxman. I don't think there's any business that will... Any country where you can run away from compliance, even things to do with disaster or environmental matters. At the end of the day, you have to comply. So when it comes to even capacity building, as you're saying, much of it will be done by private institutions. Because let me put it like this. You run a business and you want to learn about governance. There are like 100 institutions you can go to, not only government. So government has only made it easier for you to trade. Now look for that knowledge from institutions that do it. Yes. You want to comply with the governance, the Center for Corporate Governance. Go and learn. They normally have 5-day courses. You want to learn on strategic planning, go to Kenya School of Government. They have courses on that, or Kenya Institute of Management. You want to do things on records management, go to Records Management East Africa. They will train you on that. You want to run on things to do with a disaster, NEMA has institutions shortlisted to do that. And that's why we have National Industrial Training Authority. At least for you organizations, you can go and they can equip. Number 2, we have experts. Remember, running a business does not make you an expert in all areas. You are an expert maybe in organizing events. You will need an expert in finance, you will need an expert in HR, you need an expert in another sector. Now, if you need that knowledge impacted on your staff, then you get an expert to come and train your staff. Then when that is done, you continually grow. So when it comes to capacity building, it's about fellow SMEs offering the same service to help you grow. Remember, you're running a media farm. There's a farm there that does an MSME that does training on marketing. Yes. So they'll come here, study you, and figure out how do we boost you. Then they train your staff, you improve in marketing. That's a fellow MSME. You will have a problem with disaster management, another MSME will come and push you on that. So at the end of the day, they co-work with each other. They cross-sell. So I gain from you gain from me, and together you grow as a sector.
Pretty much. Simon, thank you very much for coming by. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Now, someone is saying, you kind of essentially put the blame of the performance of the MSME sector on the government, because it has to go down to these business persons who are running these businesses. Guess what? We just scratched the surface, because there's a lot, especially when you look at the MSME policy in the country. And guess what? We'll be inviting him again back to the studio so that he can now sit with these MSME owners so they can talk about these issues one-on-one, issues on qualifications, licenses, carry and tax, and the cost of doing business. Maybe we've just started the conversation. Guess what? Take him online at Lookup TV across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. I'll see you tomorrow for another edition.